y'all took my family. Y'all took 3, 4 innocent people's lives, including that baby she had in her stomach that was very healthy and she was about to have. I don't really know. I don't know how to feel.
But we begin tonight with heartbreak in Strawberry Mansion. 2 young children and a pregnant woman killed in a fast-moving row home fire. This is the news at 6. I'm Dawn Timoney.
And I'm Jason Martinez. 2 other people were also injured in this fire. Firefighters arriving to the scene on the 2500 block of Corley Street around 5 this morning. Just a devastating loss for this community. Our Jeff Cole tonight joins us live. And Jeff, we're now learning this fire was intentionally set.
The Philadelphia Fire Marshal reports now that this early morning fire in Strawberry Mansion, killing 3, was in fact set, and now the investigation turns to who did it.
What kind of person threatens to burn down a house with their family inside, gets reported to police, then actually does it months later while posting grief messages on social media? That person was the aunt who poured the gasoline. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. New here? Go ahead and subscribe. Ashley Thompson was 32 years old and 8 months pregnant when this tragic incident occurred. This was a woman who had everything to live for. Born in 1994, Ashley built her entire life around family. She had 3 beautiful kids. Her oldest was Aaliyah, and then there was 6-year-old Assad who had just graduated kindergarten. Ashley's youngest was a toddler who was still learning to walk and talk. She was preparing to welcome another baby into the world. The family lived in Strawberry Mansion, Philadelphia, in a house on North Corley Street. The house had belonged to Ashley's grandmother. When she passed away, the house was inherited by 2 sisters, Ashley's mother Sherry and her sister Fleet Newell. Ashley shared this space with her mother Sherry Jackson and her children, creating that multi-generational household where grandmothers help raise grandchildren and everyone looks out for each other. At least, that's how it was supposed to work. Now, Fleet was Ashley's aunt, but the relationship between these 2 sisters was complicated. While Sherry was the one actually living in the house, raising her daughter and grandchildren there, Fleet had different ideas about what should happen with their shared inheritance. Fleet didn't see a family home where children played and learned and grew. She saw dollar signs, she wanted the house sold, the money split, and apparently didn't care where that left Sherry and the kids. To Fleet, this was about getting what she believed she was owed, and if that meant putting her own sister out on the street with babies in tow, so be it. At first, it started the way most family disputes do: harsh phone calls, arguments at family gatherings. But Fleet wasn't just expressing frustration, she was making threats, specific violent threats about what she was going to do if she didn't get her way. Fleet allegedly told people she was going to burn the house down as a literal threat. She said she would burn the house down with Sherry inside it. This woman threatened to commit arson and end her sister's life over money, but Sherry took these threats seriously. She knew her sister, and something about Fleet's tone, about the way she was talking, made Sherry believe these weren't just angry words. So she did what you're supposed to do when someone threatens your life. She went to the police. Sherry filed a report, documenting that her sister had threatened to burn down their shared family home with her inside it. She put it on record that Fleet was making violent threats against her, and by extension, against Ashley and the children who lived in that house. The police took the report. They filed the paperwork, and that was it. Meanwhile, Fleet's bitterness was growing stronger every day. Months passed. Ashley had no idea that her aunt's threats were about to become reality. She was focused on her pregnancy, on taking care of her children, on preparing for the new baby that was going to join their family in just a few weeks. Fleet wasn't planning to carry out her threats alone. She had allegedly found someone willing to help her commit the unthinkable. A 67-year-old man named Charles Sumter, old enough to know better, but apparently willing to participate in a plan that would target a pregnant woman and children. June 13, 2024. It was still dark outside when Fleet Newell and Charles Sumter allegedly made their way through the quiet streets of Philadelphia. The time was approximately 4:50 in the morning. They brought gasoline and a lighter. None of them heard Fleet and Charles approach the house. None of them knew that their own family member was outside, pouring gasoline across their front doorway like she was watering flowers. The moment that match was lit, the flames shot up. Within seconds, what should have been a safe family home became a death trap. Inside the house, the family was jolted awake by heat and toxic smoke. Sherry woke up to a nightmare. Smoke was filling the hallways, but Sherry's first thought wasn't about herself. Her first thought was about the baby. Not Ashley's unborn baby, but the 2-year-old who was also in the house that night. With no way to reach the stairs because of the fire, Sherry made a decision that saved at least one life. She grabbed that 2-year-old, held her tight, and made her way to the second-story window. Sherry jumped. She hit the ground hard, breaking ribs, but when she looked down at the baby in her arms, that little girl was still breathing. Ashley never made it out. When firefighters finally arrived and were able to get inside, they found her on the second floor. Ashley Thompson, 32 years old, 8 months pregnant, had passed away along with her unborn baby. Her children, 6-year-old Assad and little Aliyah, were rushed to the hospital, but the smoke and flames had already done too much damage. Despite everything the medical team tried to do, both children passed away from their injuries. While the house was still on fire, while first responders were still trying to save lives, while Sherry was lying broken on the ground having lost everything, Fleet was already on Facebook, playing The Grieving Aunt. At 6:41 a.m., just hours after she had allegedly poured gasoline on her family's home, Fleet posted, "Good morning Allah, please have mercy upon my family as they return back to you. Please make their graves spacious." 10 minutes later, at 6:51 a.m. she posted, "Please hold my family in prayer as we mourn our lost ones. The fire on Corley Street was my home, and the family that passed is my niece and her 2 children. It was my oldest sister and my grandchild that survived the fire. I am not okay yet, I am strong. Ra IP Ashley, Aliyah, and Assad." But Fleet still wasn't finished with her performance. Another 10 minutes later she posted again, "Rest in peace to my niece Ashley Thompson. Great niece and nephew, I'm with you in mind, body and soul. Gone but never forgotten. Yes, we are laying to rest my niece and her children. My apologies for the delay in completing my thought." Throughout the day, Fleet continued posting photos of Ashley and her children, messages about grief and loss, posts about funeral arrangements. She was working overtime to make sure everyone saw her as the devastated aunt who had lost her beloved family members. What she didn't post about was her sister Sherry, who was fighting for her life in the hospital. Because acknowledging Sherry would mean acknowledging the one person who knew the truth about Fleet's threats. The one person who could expose Fleet's performance for what it really was. The community was shocked by Fleet's behavior afterward. People who saw her posts couldn't understand how someone could post dance videos on the same day her family passed away in the fire. Investigators were working to piece together what had really happened. The fire department's arson investigators brought in accelerant-sniffing dogs, and those dogs immediately focused on the front steps of the house. The same front steps where Fleet had allegedly poured gasoline just hours earlier. The burn patterns told a story. This fire had started at the front door and spread upward and inward, trapping anyone inside. The use of an accelerant meant this was no accident. Someone had deliberately set this fire, and they had done it in a way that would make escape nearly impossible. When investigators started interviewing family members and neighbors, Fleet's previous threats became the key piece. Sherry, even while recovering from her injuries, told police about the months of threats Fleet had made, about how Fleet had specifically said she would burn the house down with Sherry inside it. The police report that Sherry had filed months earlier suddenly became crucial evidence. Cell phone data placed both Fleet and Charles Sumter in the area just before the fire started. The timeline was clear. They had allegedly approached the house in the early morning hours, set the fire, and left while the family burned. This was a premeditated action, planned and executed by someone who was supposed to love and protect these victims. The Philadelphia Fire Marshal's office worked with the ATF and local police to process the crime scene. Fire investigators know how flames move naturally, and this wasn't natural. The fire had spread too quickly, jumped too aggressively, and consumed the house in a pattern that only happens when accelerants are involved. Philadelphia police executed search warrants and arrested both Fleet Newell and Charles Sumter. The charges were serious, multiple counts related to the incident, arson, and conspiracy. When Fleet was arrested, she didn't break down crying. According to police reports, she remained calm like this was just another inconvenience in her day. Charles Sumter, the 67-year-old man who had allegedly helped Fleet commit these acts, was arrested at the same time. Here was a man old enough to have grandchildren of his own, choosing to participate in alleged premeditated actions against a pregnant woman and children. For what? Money that wasn't even his. The community was relieved that arrests had been made, but relief doesn't bring back the people you've lost. In an interview, Sherry confirmed what everyone already suspected, that Fleet was her sister, and that Fleet had threatened to burn the house down because of their property dispute. Police charged Fleet Newell, who court documents list as 44 years old, and Charles Sumter with multiple serious charges related to the incident. The neighbor who witnessed Sherry jumping from the second-story window told reporters, "It was just horrific. I just heard somebody screaming when she jumped out the window, the lady, and she had the baby cradled in her arms and the whole house just went up in flames."
Got down here, she was already had jumped out the window with the baby in her arms. It's just devastating. It's really sad, the whole situation.
The case against Fleet and Charles is still working its way through the courts, but the evidence is clear. Cell phone records, accelerant evidence, witness statements, previous threats, and Fleet's own social media posts paint a picture of alleged premeditated actions motivated by greed and jealousy. If convicted, Fleet will likely spend the rest of her life in prison. Charles Sumter, at 67 years old, will probably never see freedom again. And what about Sherry? She survived. But at what cost? She lost her daughter, her grandchildren, and her unborn grandchild. She lost her home. She lost her sense of safety and security. She has to live with the knowledge that her own sister destroyed her family over money. Rest in peace, Ashley, Assad, Aaliyah, and baby Thompson. You deserved better.